Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special old school stream, because today we're going to be talking all about The Nightmare of Ashihama. So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm Mod Ed. I was one of the developers on The Nightmare of Ashihama, and here I am joined by the rest of the development team, with Mod West.
Hi.
Mod Husky.
Yeah.
Mod Bruno.
Hey.
Mod G.
Hi.
And Mod Ghost.
Hello.
I've got the hardest part of the way. I haven't doxed anyone on the couch. Awesome. So, unsurprisingly, with a stream about The Nightmare of Ashihama, we're going to be talking about The Nightmare of Ashihama, which means the usual Q&A questions, we're going to be putting those on hold until next week. That said, we are aware that there are some concerns at the moment around PvP, especially Bounty Hunter, so I do have a short statement here on that. So, basically, the team are fully aware of the issues that are going on at the moment, and they're currently working to address these. So there will be an announcement about this tomorrow. So we don't have anything to give you concrete at the moment, but tomorrow morning there will be an announcement about that. But until then, all about the nightmare. So I think I have a clicker somewhere. I do. I think we have a presentation, maybe? Nice. Nice. So, let's get started with a little bit of background, a little bit of lore, because we all love a bit of lore, don't we? So, the Nightmare of Ashihama is, well, what is she? Nobody knows, really. She is some strange being that comes from the island of Ashihama. And for anyone who doesn't know where that is, this is an island far, far to the east, in an area known only as the Eastern Lands. And here on screen we see just a few of the select things already in-game from the Eastern Lands. So we've got things like the Cyclops, the Bowsword, and the characters whose names I cannot pronounce whatsoever. So the Eastern Lands, it's a place that has been talked about in-game for a long, long time. Like, some of these characters have been around in the game since, I don't even know when, very early on. But not much has really been talked about this place, so with this update we really wanted to delve into this area a bit more and learn a bit more about the people that live there, and of course the monsters that live there, like the Nightmare. So, in the Eastern Lands, there is an island called Ashihama, where a group of Sirens live. And these Sirens have been plagued by this Nightmare for as long as they can remember. But eventually they finally managed to drive her out, and she fled. And she fled west. And where did she end up? After fleeing west, she ended up in Mauritania. Do we have a... Here. In, well, when you go to Mauritania, coming from that direction, the first place you're going to hit is Slepe. So that's exactly where she ended up. There's some interesting things going on in Slepe at the moment. So, in Slepe, we have something called, very creatively named, the Sleeper Plague. So this is something that has plagued the town of Slepe for many, many, many years. In fact, it is, unsurprisingly, the origin of the name, where people, well, basically, they fall asleep, I guess, is probably the only way to describe that, really. Yes, the chat has it spot on there. They fall to sleep. And this is fantastic for the Nightmare, because what the Nightmare does is she feeds on people while they sleep. She steals their energy while they're fast asleep, gives them horrible nightmares in doing so, hence why she's called the Nightmare, until eventually she's drained all of her energy and they die, which is nice and cheery. So, sleep is brilliant for her. She's just arrived in Mauritania, first town she's arrived at. All these people are fast asleep. Brilliant. This is fantastic. She is going to have quite the feast. So, that's just a little bit of background there. So we now have this Nightmare in Slepe, and that's a problem. So you're going to need to stop that. How are you going to do that? So on this map you can see a few nice marks there to show some of the key locations. So we've got the purple, what is that, I guess a cross, the purple cross. So that's the entrance to the Sleep Dungeon. You can already go into the Sleep Dungeon in-game right now, but some of it is locked off. In fact, there's a few NPCs down there saying they're desperately trying to get through. What are we waving at? Okay. Let's pretend that didn't happen. So, there's this dungeon, and right now you can't fully get in, but with this update you'll be able to enter into the deeper area dungeon known as the Sisterhood Sanctuary. The other two crosses on there And probably the main ways you're going to want to actually use to get to the dungeon. So you've got the yellow one, which is the dock, so you can take a boat from just north of Port Phasmatis, if I said that right. You can take a boat from there to get to the dungeon, or alternatively, if you've completed A Taste of Hope, which is a very good quest, I'd highly recommend it, not biased or anything, you can teleport straight to that blue cross with a nice convenient bank next to it as well, and then run from there. So that's how you're going to get to the dungeon. And here's the dungeon itself, so purple cross again, that's where you'll come in. And that's the existing part of the dungeon. And then over on the right, we have all the new section, and unsurprisingly the red cross, that is where you're going to be fighting the Nightmare. So we're actually now going to have a little look at this new environment in a bit more detail. And that is why I'm joined by some artists.
Yeah,
so,
indeed.
I guess starting with the concept art.
Cool, yeah, so these are the concepts for the sanctuary itself, as well as the Nightmare's Dream. So as you can see at the top, this is sort of an idea of it being a little bit more opulent and new. In the end, we ended up going down a more ancient and sort of old thematic to make it fit with the rest of the caves that are already in the game. So while this is like a view of what it would look like if it was new, with maybe a few webs, we're going to see what it's going to look like in a bit in the actual assets themselves. And then at the bottom there we've got like an early view of the actual boss fight arena. Because you don't actually fight within the sanctuary itself, but you go up to the Nightmare and you enter her dream, and then that's where you fight her, and which we'll be seeing in the next few slides. So if you can go to the next one. So this is the entrance to the sanctuary. As you can see, there's a few plague sisters there, big statues there, sort of giving you a sort of understanding of the sort of themes of this dungeon. So essentially, Slepe itself was originally a settlement by Saradinists, but it was a very small one. And as the vampires came into Mauritania, they sort of took over, and a bunch of ex-Saradinist warriors, led by a justiciar, who sort of turned to Zamorak, took this place over. They extended the caves out and created this sanctuary where they essentially performed all their rites. So if we move over to the next image, we have the lobby. So this is just past the entrance. We have a bunch of Zamarakian warriors that are just sort of, I mean, once you get into the game, you're able to talk to them and sort of figure out why they're there. But the idea is that they're sort of against the sisterhood. They don't really believe that they're true Zamarakians, because the they were just sort of born into it. Well, they sort of were Saradinists that became Zamarakians, so they feel a bit more true to the environment.
They love your hammer.
Oh right, oh yeah, the double. Oh yeah, what was I calling it? The dragon wall, I suppose. I thought I'd just throw that in as a bit of a tease. I like doing that sometimes. So if we go to the next image. Cool, so this is the platform where you'll find the Nightmare. So when you find the Nightmare, she'll be asleep on the ground, and when you interact with her, you will go into the dream, but outside people will see her lift up and start doing some spooky things. And that's how you know that the fight's already in progress, and you have to wait until it's over. There'll be some symbols on the floor to sort of show you at what stage the fight's at as well. Cool, so that's the sanctuary itself, and now we're going to move on to the actual boss fight arena, which is on the next slide. Oh wait, we've got a GIF first.
Lied.
So, I did lie. So this is just showing you how it's all connected. So that's the platform there, and it pulls out into the lobby area, and then we've got the entrance as well with all the statues and lots of candles.
And as you mentioned earlier, like those NPCs there, as usual, plenty of Easter eggs and characters to talk to around there, as well as the boss itself. Yeah,
just sort of flavour text that gives you an idea of why these people have came to this the sanctuary. It's only recently been opened, so it's quite interesting to them. Sort of usually when we release a new piece of content, it's always like, oh, this has always been here, everyone's been here. But now it's almost like you're going there as well as all these other NPCs are exploring like you are.
Yeah, it follows on quite nicely from like all the hints that were dropped when Slepe was originally launched a couple of years ago, back with A Taste of Hope and Theatre of Blood, and you get to learn a bit more about that story, and you actually will ultimately learn even more when the quest comes out a bit later in the year. For anyone not aware, we've obviously got the Nightmare coming out, as we've now announced at the start of this Q&A on the, I hope I get this right, the 6th of February?
Yeah.
No one's disagreeing, so that's good. Well, 6th of February, but a little bit later in the year, close to the middle of the year, we've got the new Myaki quest, Sins of a Father, coming out as well, and there will be some story tie-ins to Slepe there too, so exciting times. But until then, should we have a look at the internal environment?
Yep, definitely. So once you've interacted with the Nightmare, you'll be taken to a new area. So this is the initial concept. This was all the concept was done by the concept team, but the assets themselves are going to be were done by Modrai. So he did like a quick grey box of the environment, which we then gave to the concept so they could, flesh it out a bit further. So if we move on to the next one, we can see the final product. So yeah, this is the main platform seen from above. This is where all the fighting will be happening. As you can see, there's Eastern motives in there, especially with you see the gates and the various fences.
Yeah, the idea is that she's her home obviously was on Ashihama for such a long time, and she's now come to Mauritania, and it's this weird, strange place to her, and she's not a fan of that, especially with all these people coming to try and kill her. So she's trying to make it feel more like she's fighting you on her home soil, basically. So she pulls you into her dream, and it is a dream of her home of Ashihama, hence all the Eastern vibes going on. It nicely contrasts with the darker Mauritania-themed Sisterhood Sanctuary.
Yeah, definitely. So if we go to the next image, we can see the sort of the ethereal feel to it. So the world below is very cracked up and broken. You can see some floating elements. When you get in game, you'll see the bridge as well has a sort of very subtle wave to it, so it feels very dreamlike. That's sort of the feel we're going for here. Modrai's done a really great job of this, so really like where it's going. And we've got a final image as well, just showing the more sort of below areas of the platform where you got the Nightmare's garden and how she's trying to make herself feel at home.
Nice. Home sweet home.
Home sweet home, exactly.
Ish.
Yeah. A bit of creepy home, but yeah, that's what she wants, right?
So obviously there's more than just environments to this. We also have characters. We've spoken quite a bit about the Nightmare herself. We'll be looking at her soon, but the other big character with this update is Shura, and Shura is one of the Sirens from Ashihama. After they drove the Nightmare out of their home, most of them were like, right, great. Problem solved. Let's go down to the pub, have a pint, and celebrate. Shura was a bit more like, not a great idea, guys. What if she comes back again? So Shura actually followed the Nightmare to Slepe, and she is intent on making sure that she doesn't come back on defeating her once and for all. And the model for Shura was done by Mod G. Anything you want to say about Shura?
So this is a really exciting model to work on because we actually haven't seen sirens at all in RuneScape other than a very small picture by a doc. So I had quite a lot of license to go somewhere really cool with the whole race, to be honest. There's a chance that maybe we'll see some more sirens in the future, so I just really wanted to set like a really cool precedent of what they can be and what they can look like. So Shura is a bit different from regular sirens because she's a warrior, whereas the race tends to be quite, pacifist. They don't really like violence. So she's a bit different. So we can expect perhaps sirens in the future to look a little bit different. A lot of you might have seen this already because I did post it on Twitter, and a lot of people sort of commented on the sort of like bikini armor aspect of it. But the race is semi-aquatic, so I did take that into consideration when I was designing the character and how they'd be able to move both in and out of the water, and also the fact that she is the only warrior. So
yeah, I did notice a comment in the Twitch chat earlier that, oh wow, she really sticks out like a sore thumb in the sanctuary, and like, that's a good thing she's meant to. This isn't her home. She's come all the way from this island of Ashihama. She's not on her home turf, so she's not going to match up with everything in that sanctuary.
It's also good from a mechanics perspective as well, because you want like something that's important to interact with to actually stand out, so you know where to go. If she blended in, you'd be hunting around for quite a long time, looking for who to communicate with.
she also has a lot of dialogue, which probably you're all going to spacebar through, but it's quite cool. It gives you some background, that kind of thing.
Yeah, she's sort of kind of, I guess, the tutor almost of this. So when you go into the sanctuary, like, she's the first person you'll talk to, and she'll like give you a little explanation of why the Nightmare's there and few little hints on how to defeat her. Obviously, most of you will just spacebar through that, so you'll run into the fight not having a clue, but hey, that's part of the fun, isn't it? And speaking of running into the fight, let's actually have a look at the Nightmare herself. So the Nightmare was done by Mod Ghost.
Yeah, so this is one of mine. The original one was not designed by me. You see that concept by the side just there, and also the concept that started the stream. That was designed by Mod Zerkov.
You're looking at me like I'm going to, like, but I have no idea. I'm just like, yeah, sure, why not?
Well, so it was designed to realise it in 3D and old school RuneScape. So my job really then is to take the concept and actually just kind of old schoolify it so it actually works. inside our game. In terms of her scale, she's pretty tall, so I guess the player would kind of come up to her knees, maybe like the sort of like
around
slightly
about.
higher around that.
And also she's quite hunched over as well, so
Yeah,
like
exactly.
makes her look like shorter than she actually is. She is really big.
Yeah, she's massive. So she's kind of like that sort of Grendel creature from like the Beowulf poem and things like that. So the way she kind of walks, she's kind of very lumbering and very sort of creepy, the way she kind of storms towards you. So I wanted her to feel like very gangly. So that way you can see when she attacks, it's kind of, her body kind of twists and contorts. And then when she spins around, those limbs can really sort of fly around at you, almost like blades. So yeah, there's lots of cool movements that you'll see with this one. It's very surreal, and I think with these animations, I've not really done anything as bizarre as this before, so I definitely had a lot of fun. The next slide, you'll actually see her waking up. So when you go into the nightmare, you'll see her dead on the floor, and you can see here it's almost like her body gets possessed by this evil, and she's like a husk that kind of comes to life, and it's this evil's kind of working through her to kind of attack the player. So I did want to kind of play with this idea that she herself kind of goes to sleep and turns unconscious, and then when she becomes conscious, that's when the nightmare begins. Is that cool?
I think
No,
so.
redo it.
It's like one of my favourite animations. I just love the way it moves at the beginning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like
long time.
unsurprisingly sleep nightmare things going on with all of this.
Yeah, for sure. So everything we've done really in terms of the visuals, it's all just trying to kind of tie it in so that the narrative feels like it's cohesive. And throughout the project is kind of, we've got loads of different elements. So we've got the Eastern Lands, we've got, Ashihama rather, we've got Shura, we've got the Nightmare, we've got the Sanctuary, we've got the Nightmare's Dream. So I'd say this was probably the most ambitious project in terms of conceptualizing the world, because there's so many elements all converging. And we did manage to pull it all together, and it seems really cohesive and unified now. So I'd say that was the biggest challenge for this.
There was definitely a point in time where we were all sort of semi-panicking, because it was like we had all these different elements and we were going, oh my gosh, there's so many colours, how's it all going to fit together?
Yeah.
And like a lot of iterations. And the Sanctuary especially looks so good now.
Yeah,
Marcus
it's
done a
really
good
nice.
job.
Yeah, the playtesters that came in were really helpful in that process of figuring out what we needed to change to get the effect that we were going for. So
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the project really just had so many hands, sort of like just helping out and trying to realise the sort of overarching, whichever.
One of them.
Whatever you fancy.
The overarching vision that's sort of like Ed established and kind of briefed to everyone. So it's really been an ambitious thing. I'm really proud of where it is now. It's like a good thing to work on, isn't it? And have actually accomplished together.
it's going to be cool.
Yeah, for me, it's always fantastic, like seeing these things. I guess seeing the way they translate from paper. I say paper, nothing's on paper anymore, is it? None of us use paper. They don't even know what paper is, but like the way it translates from the Word document to the actual in-game, and like. Because initially I just had pulled together loads of screenshots from okay, Boomer, yeah, I'm actually, I look really good for my age, don't I? Let's be honest.
To say papyrus, really.
I saw some people commenting about the size of her. She's a 5x5, I believe.
Yeah,
so,
size 5 MP.
So that kind of does give the scale of, like, even though she's humanoid, people has it 1x1 and stuff. She is huge, you know.
Yeah, she's gigantic. But the good thing about that is because there's loads of people interacting with the content, it's going to be you've got a nice big target to click on basically when you're dealing with this. Otherwise, it'd be mental just trying to like just click on this one by one amidst this big crowd of people.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got some rewards.
Rewards.
So on the right there, we've got the Inquisitor armor and the mace. This has been a long time coming, the armor. I think we first showed this, it was a RuneFest, wasn't it? I can't remember which.
It was, what would it been?
2017?
RuneFest 17 it would have been. RuneFest 2017, because it was one of the initial designs for Theatre of Blood, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was right. Yeah, so it was going along with 2 other designs, but this one certainly seemed to be the most popular. It got posted on social quite often throughout the years, especially when we were like looking for something to release as a reward. So it felt like, given that it was initially aimed for Tome, Theatre of Blood, it made sense now that it fits the environment it was in, the lore, and it made sense to put it onto the Nightmare, given the location. And then we've also got the Inquisitor mace. The mace was done by Modorai. I think that looks sick as well. It's very Lord of the Rings-esque. I really like how it looks. And then to the left we have the new staff. I'm sure a lot of people probably played around with these already because they were in the beta. where they could have a little play around with the mechanics. And yeah, we've got just the 4 variants of the staff there with all the different types. Yeah.
That mace is probably one of my favourite looking weapons in game. I think it looks lovely.
Cool.
Yep.
And the next slide, we got. Oh, we're back into bugs.
Also got some bugs, yeah. We thought we'd show you a couple of the fun little things that happened during development of this one. So, what actually are these? Well, I guess no one really knows what one of the right is. What is even happening there? But what's one on the left?
On the left, it just wasn't really taking damage, and it was obviously meant to. So
I love that the XP is still shooting at those.
Yeah.
Great trading method.
You can see that we're hitting like hundreds, but there's no damage being dealt. So
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Obviously, this is using our staff hacks, to do a lot of damage and it not working. She's so powerful, even J-mods can't beat her.
And on the right, she's just all very distorted and terribly bad looking, really.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, like throughout the development, you see all sorts of little graphical things. As an artist making changes and a dev is also making little things, and it's quite funny how it sometimes just lines up like that. And you get these funny pictures.
That one on the right-hand side just there, that was probably my fault.
You don't have to take responsibility on the live stream.
Often, so you can see where she's dead at the start of the fight on the ground. I saved that as a model by the looks of it. So she's kind of, asleep on the floor, posed, like yawn, yawn. Then, you try to animate her, and she goes from that position instead of a T pose into this really garbled up, messed up position. So if ever you see that happening, run to the artist and say, look, you broke it. Done.
The thing that was funny about that one though is that I can't remember who it was. Someone actually said, "I like that. It feels like a proper nightmare now. It's just nonsensical. Can we keep it?"
Wow, art really is subjective.
So, obviously revealed back at the start of the stream, but just to reiterate, this is the Nightmare of Ashihama coming on the 6th of February, so there's your release date, not far to go now. You also get a nice proper look at the new artwork for her, which is looking absolutely fantastic. And I think we might maybe be joined by Mod Surma, potentially. He seems confused. He doesn't. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Cool.
We can do some questions if you want first, and then we'll come back to you later.
I saw a lot of people asking about how our instance is going to work and how, can I do this with my clan and a lot of things, and how's it going to work with Ironmen. So
Yeah, we'll go through all of that stuff now. So now we've sort of done the initial reveals. If anyone's got any questions, throw them in the chat. We've got Mod Acorn, and we're going to be looking at the fancy new modern technology. No paper here. It's an iPad. We're going to be looking at the questions on the iPad and hopefully answering some of them. And we'll be joined by Mod Sir a bit later because he said he doesn't like any of you and doesn't want to come over yet.
Ew.
So let's get started with, will the boss be instanced? Am I answering them?
Yeah, so each world will have one instance for the boss for regular accounts and one instance for Ironman accounts. So essentially the fight is hopefully to take a while. So as a normal account, you'll go in. If you see her sleeping, great. You can just open the instance and start. If the fight is ongoing, you'll see her. I think there was a still picture of her hovering. And you'll see these sort of symbols underneath her where each symbol will reflect which phase she's on. So it's phase whatever it is. I'm not going to give numbers, but getting close to being done or not being close to being done.
Phases, spoilers.
So yeah, so you'll have that. So you can obviously hop over, and Iron Men have to do it with other Iron Men. And there's I think there's a little portal cauldron thing to the side that instead you go into that instead of the boss.
It's like a little pool of. It's based on the pool of dreams from the Myth Guild. So I think it was a pensive from Harry Potter. That's sort of a similar sort of feeling.
Yeah, Dumbledore's little sink.
Yeah, little sink of memories.
Noticing a few people in the chat going, so it's not instance then, maybe a bit of misunderstanding of what an instance actually is. So when a lot of people talk about instances, they use it to refer to, is it solo, is it group? But what an instance actually is for us, from a technical point of view, is just copying a section of a map and putting it somewhere else and then pulling players into it. Quite often we use this for solo content because we just put one player in it, then we'll do another copy and put another player in it. But we can use it for group bosses as well. So this is a group boss. This isn't another solo boss. We know we've served solo bosses quite well recently, so we wanted to do a group boss this time around because with the exception of raids, we haven't really done too many group bosses. And the fact that it's an instance is just because of that whole thematics with the dream and stuff. So when you enter, you get taken into a dream, and that is the instance. But no, it is a group boss, and as mentioned, there is only one, well, technically 2 per world as a normal one, and then there's a separate Iron Man one because Iron Men stand alone, or well, in this case, I guess technically with each other. Which I think is, I think there's a couple of the bosses have something similar. So like, just Corp has like an Iron Man portal, or something, doesn't it?
But yeah, instances also offer a lot of flexibility for us as devs to do things that we can't do in the real world. So, in the real game world, I guess. So, yeah.
A couple of people in the chat saying Wooks has already soloed it. He hasn't quite done it yet, but I'm sure he will have it done within the first hour, knowing him. But yeah, you can solo it. When I say you can solo it, there's nothing stopping you going in on your own and giving it a shot. Obviously, it'll be much harder because it is balanced for groups, but you can give it a go, and Wooks will do it. Maybe a few you guys will do it as well. Next question: do you have to do the most damage to get one of the unique rewards? So, not necessarily. So, one thing we've done with the Nightmare is we've tried to make it so that it feels less competitive. Like a lot of group bosses you go to, because the only person who's getting any drop is the person who does the most damage, rather than it being a cooperative experience of, let's everyone work together to kill this boss, it becomes more of a, I'm going to be better than that guy, I'm going to get the max damage, and sucks to be you, basically. So basically everyone who does a minimum contribution will get a drop, and the size of that drop will increase based on how much you've contributed. So it's still beneficial to do the most damage, it's still beneficial to be the MVP, but if you're the noob who's just come in and done a couple of hits, you might still get like a little token drop. On the topic of drop tables, we've obviously got a lot of uniques, and one thing we really wanted to do was to go back to like style drop tables like with God Wars and stuff, where there's really good uniques that hopefully make you a lot of money, but the standard drop table is not quite as good. So sort of like, this isn't going to be, well, hopefully not, if it is then, this isn't going to be the next Vorkath or Zulra, in that a lot of the income just comes from like the regular drops getting over and over again, but that more of it should come from the uniques, and the other drops just sort of like nice little like token things, like, oh cool, yeah, that's nice, but nothing too special.
And I've seen a lot of people asking, is this like Zalcano? I think you should think of it more like raids, in that there's one unique. If you guys get a unique roll, it will go to the person, most likely the person with the most damage. Like they have a higher percentage chance of getting it, but obviously, like, you know, you might have a 5% chance of getting it, and that's the highest percentage in your group of 30, but like you've still got a 95% chance to not get it, right? Because that's split between the other bunch of people.
So with Zalcano, we did try and do something like this, and obviously it didn't quite work out in that we ended up just giving everyone lots and lots of loot, and everyone to have a chance of unique. So it's based on some of the same stuff, but hopefully like a little bit more fair, in that for every time she dies, there's only, for each unique item, only one's going out at most. Obviously, of course, none could go out, and everyone has a chance of getting it, but it's biased towards a person who contributed more, so there's still a reason to contribute a lot. And then with the little token rewards, this time they are just token rewards, unlike with Zalcana, where we were pumping lots of stuff in, like, have God knows how many runes.
Yeah, and that system will work the same for Ironmen as well. So if there's like 2 or 3 of you going in, your percentage will be divided up amongst them. So it's not a case of, oh, there's an Ironman in that world, I need to hop. You can sort of do it as a group of Ironmen together.
You were meant to keep talking, I was having a drink.
Oh, sorry.
There's now an awkward silence. Will the boss be quest locked? So we showed the map of Slepe earlier, so that's where she is. There's no quest required to get into Slepe, and there's no quest required to get into that dungeon, so all you need to do is have actual access to Mauritania, which is just Priest in Peril. There is, obviously at RuneFest we talked about the quest Sins of a Father, that's also happening in Mauritania. That's not part of this update, that's coming later in the year. There will be a few thematic tie-ins. Why the Scythe statues?
Oh, well, the Scythe of Vitur's quite close by, right? Well, the Vitur's close by, they just sort of had them about, you know. I mean,
Defend your design choices.
That's a good answer.
I was like, I suppose back in back when the temple was being established, these were a lot more frequent. A lot of people were using them. Obviously, since then they've been hoarded by Verzik.
That's it,
So,
make something up.
Come on, waffle.
well, yeah, there's reasons. It's all about it's all about blood.
Makes
That's
sense.
what I was going to say.
You look for
There's
inspiration from the area,
reasons.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, it kind of fits in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's all like thematic tie-ins, isn't there? Like, as mentioned earlier, the fact that the Inquisitor's armor looks a lot like Justiciar armor is because the person who owned it was formerly a Justiciar before betraying them and turning to Zamorak. So there's a lot of connections. It's all in the same sort of area. And there's obviously then the things coming over from Ashihama as well.
Also, it didn't really look cool, so that was another reason.
That's the best reason.
Yeah, just the rule of,
You probably should
rule
have
of
said that at the
cool.
start rather than having this long conversation, which was gone, looks cool.
Rule of cool.
Next question is pet with about 10 question marks after it. Yes, there is a pet. There is a usual boss pet.
I think at this point, if it's a big boss, it will have a pet.
Yeah.
They really need to make that question.
We've already covered the next couple, so did you decide on a drop tail for regular loot? Already mentioned the regular drops are going to be quite a bit smaller, more token, sort of quite heavily inspired by God Wars and that kind of thing. But that said, they do go to multiple people, so you still feel like you're getting something even if you don't contribute as much, but it'll be a smaller amount. One after that, how large is the Nightmare? It's 5x5. Next question is melee in range or what?
Spoilers.
No, you'll find out, won't you?
For the 6th.
About how long will a kill take? I guess it depends on a lot of factors, really, like how many people you take in and how good you are, whether Wooks is with you, all those kind of factors. So she does, another one of the reasons why it's instance is that she does scale based on how many players go in, so the more players in there, the higher her hit points will be, and a few other things get tweaked as well. So while taking more players in you might expect it to mean it's a faster fight, might not necessarily be true. It's, as for the actual length, again, like I say, varies so much, but this isn't a raid. It's not like Theatre of Blood where you're going to be in there for like 20, 30 minutes or 2 hours if you're me.
It's going to be longer than a mass corp, though. I mean, that's what we didn't want you to just be able to go in, get 100 people and one-shot it, right? So
Yeah.
That wouldn't be overly exciting.
So I guess it's on the higher end for bosses, but much shorter than raid. It's still that sort of like more shorter forms type thing.
did you put the multiplier on when Wooks is in the raid to make it harder, or...?
There should be a way to sort of like go like check the display name. Is it Wooks? Right. He gets teleported to a new instance with a new boss. Just for him. Where are we? We'll be able to instance with our clans, so I guess it depends what way you're looking at that. You can't have a private instance for yourself and your clan. You and your clan can go in together, and same with a lot of other bosses, just like find an empty world and go in together. One of the nice things about this boss is partly because of the scaling and also partly because of the way everyone gets a reward, is that it's a little bit harder to crash her compared to some other things. Like you can't just go in and ruin everyone's kill by doing stupid things. And well, if you try to do that, then hopefully you'll die.
Yeah, and I mean, once the fight's started, the idea is it's now closed off, so no one else can go in. So once, say you find a group, your clan goes in. Once you're all in, you can't just be suddenly crashed midway through the fight. So you either beat her or you don't.
Can Ironmen's, not Iron Men, Ironmen's, I actually read it as Iron Memes to start with, get loot from the Nightmare? Yes, but as mentioned earlier, they have to group separately so that they can't be helped out by normal accounts. Is the Mage's Book consumed when making the Siren's Tome? No, because we removed the Siren's Tome. Back when we pulled the rewards, obviously one of the things we pulled was the Siren's Tome, a new best in slot offhand magic item, but afterwards, as like part of the balancing, we decided that it wasn't the right kind of reward to come from this update that we already had enough uniques, so we've actually held off on it for now, and we will potentially look to use it in a future piece of content instead. So you're not actually getting the Siren's Tome with this one, but all the other rewards that we showed off earlier, but it's going to be the nice uniques. Level required to fight, there's no hard requirements on it. As mentioned, there's no quest requirement, nor is any level requirements, but as with anything like this, the higher level you are, the better chance you're going to have. Will Slayer Masters be able to assign the Nightmare as a boss task? Yes. How are drops determined? Already went over that one earlier. When will Wooks be able to solve this with a potato? Day one, probably, knowing him. Be good to watch, I'm sure. does it cost money to get gear back when dying, and is it an unsafe death? So it is an unsafe death. You go over hardcore and you die, that's it, hardcore over. And you do have to pay Shura to get your items back if you do die in there. So it's the kind of similar system we used with a lot of other bosses and raids and stuff of the NPC outside who grabs your items and then you go and pay her. So that's actually the real reason she's come over. She's pretending she's here to help defeat the nightmare. She's actually just come over to make some money.
Yeah, she's seen how much like Torfin makes, making, getting the money from adventurers doing Vorkath, and she's like, I'm going to cash in on that.
I need to slowly fill up some chests with gold as the time progresses.
Yeah.
Can you control who enters the instance? No, again, we've sort of like looked at older group bosses where there's not like 10 instances per world. It's just for one instance that everyone can go in together. But again, as mentioned earlier, because of everyone has a chance of getting a loot and stuff like that, and the scaling, it should feel a bit more fair compared to some of those older ones. And already just answer the next question, does the boss scale? Yep, so the more players in there, the higher the health will be. There's a couple of other things as well. Next one, already answered again. Will you lose hardcore? Yes, you will, so don't mess up, or, well, bad luck. Will pet roll only be when a unique is rolled, or is it regardless of a unique or not? So the pet roll is separate, so what we were saying earlier about how for each unique you can have a max of one of each unique per kill, and it'll get, any player has a chance of getting it, but there's a bias towards the players with more points. The pet is separate from that, so it is your more standard unique roll, where you don't have to have got a unique to get it. Jar with 10 question marks. Again, yes, there's a jar. There's a cool, nice, fancy-looking display case.
Yep.
Maximum amount of people, you can take up to 80 people in there. Once you hit 80, you're not allowed any more people in, and obviously you can go as low as 1, but it's a group boss, so it's not really balanced particularly well for 1. It's also not designed for 80 people particularly. We'll let you take 80 people in because I know some people enjoy, like some influencers and stuff will probably go on stream and have a nice big mass, but it's going to be a bit of a mess. We actually tried it. How many did we get in, like 60 something?
Yeah, so we actually had a mass play test today with as many people as we could get in the office, and we managed 68 people. I have very high hopes that no one will be coordinated enough to kill the boss with more than, like, I don't know, 30, 40 people.
Yeah, we expect...
It's very hard.
I guess similar to probably like Chambers and Xeric, like you expect like the standard group size to be relatively small. Not many people probably want to do it solo because it might be a bit too hard, but again, some of the better people will just be like walk through it like Wooks will. And on the flip side, the 80 people, it's more just for fun at that point. Like if you want to do a big mass and just see what happens and watch the carnage, and it really is carnage. It's hilarious. I'm hoping a few people will do it on stream on day one just so we can all sit in the office and watch. So we briefly mentioned this earlier, but will the instance be closed while the boss is alive, or can you enter midway? So once the fight starts, you're not allowed to enter until she's being defeated again, so you can't like join a fight halfway through and just to take advantage of the fact they've already half killed it for you. And on the flip side, you can't join a fight halfway through just to mess things up for them by changing the scaling. But of course, you can do the usual thing of pop worlds or just wait until she's gone down. There is an anti-griefing mechanic in there where people can't just go in just to claim the instance and then wait there, because she will despawn after a while if not enough damage has been done to her. I'll skip past that one now and come back to it at the end because it's a bit more of an open one. Are we getting plague armour? I assume they're referring to the Sisterhood armour?
Sisterhood armour. I did consider adding it into a chest into the Sanctuary, but given I probably want some stats on it because I feel like it might be wasted if it's just like a generic cosmetic. But I suppose we can run that by the players. But there's always opportunity for Sins of the Father to have that as somehow involved. I know you just go on a side and grab it from a chest. You know,
especially with a lot more of the story being fleshed out at that point.
Yeah, it feels a bit nicer just putting in a chest, doesn't it, to have like a thematic way for it to come in, for sure. Actually have a purpose.
There is dialogue with the sisters at the moment. If you ask for it, they'll just say you have to be a sister to get it. So maybe something along those lines.
They say you have to be a sister for them to give it to you. You can just steal it from them.
Yeah.
I suppose.
It's like the whole sort of adventurer mindset of I'll just kill you and take it, because I can.
I know, I was thinking steal it, and then you go and talk to them later, and they go, "Where did you get that armor from?"
Yeah.
Space for like a mini quest with prayer where you just become like a sister.
You're stuck to sleep and you can't leave.
Can you teleport or Ring of Life out of a fight after it starts? Yes, you can teleport out, so you're not stuck in there.
Yep.
What is the recommended team size? So going back to earlier, it's anywhere between 1 and 80 people can go in, but recommended, I don't really. What would you say a good number is?
Probably about the same amount of people as the amount of people you take into Theatre of Blood.
Yeah, I can see a lot of people doing 3 or 4 man, but 2 man and solo will be possible.
Yeah.
5 seems like a nice reasonable number. 5 men, a little bit either side, but again, if you really want to, go with 80 people and just see what happens. Is the boss harder than Verzik? I wouldn't say it's harder than Verzik.
I think
Difficulty is always a difficult thing because it's relative, isn't it? Like Wook's goes, Verzik's a level 3 goblin, so that's that. But for someone like me, like the level 3 goblin is more like Verzik. So depends who you ask, I guess. But I'd say no, it's not the same kind of thing as Verzik. Like Verzik is a raid boss; they're meant to be really hard, and this is still challenging, but not to that same level.
I think it's
Yeah, I was going to say, just like on release as well, like you have to do a lot more bosses to get to Verzik as well, and that add to the pressure of Verzik, so that might have made her feel a lot harder than she really was.
I mean, Verzik is essentially, she has a huge KO potential in a lot of her phases, right? Because the idea is you've got there, and it's do or die, right? You either get your loot or you don't. I think in the aspect of KO potential, Nightmare has a lot less than Verzik, I would say. Not a lot less, but it is less. But there's a lot more things going on with that one fight compared to a single fight in Theatre of Blood. Is that fair? She's got more mechanics, I would say.
Yeah.
But they don't have as much chance to kill you.
I'd say you can't also predict what you can go into the fight with Verzik, can you? So it just depends what you've got left after the raid.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you can just go in fully prepared.
Yeah, definitely.
What type of monster is the boss? In the sense that Vorkath is a blue dragon for blue dragon tasks. Nothing like that. She's a nightmare. She's completely unique.
I didn't actually know. I don't think the salve works and stuff, 'cause I think that's where people are getting it for, because she's not technically undead.
No, she's not undead. Like I say, it's quite shrouded in mystery what she is, but things like the salve don't work and other things like that. What is the base scaling like? In the sense that, similar to how Theatre of Blood is scaled for free, so if you go in with lower, it still treats it like there's 3 people in there. I believe it's
I think it may be 5.
5 people, 4 or 5 people. I mean, so I think different aspects scale slightly differently, so it's a 4 or 5 depending on which bit we're talking about. I think for the hit point itself, it's 5. So if you're going with lower than 5 people, you're still getting given a fight for 5 people, hence why it starts to get a bit harder below those numbers. And then obviously, as it starts to go up, hit points start piling on quite fast. So mentioned this earlier, but again, will Sins of Father quest be released with a Nightmare? So just in case people didn't know, Sins of Father is the new Mikey quest that we announced at RuneScape, and obviously while there are some similarities between the Nightmare, them both being set in Mauritania, they're separate updates. So we've got the Nightmare launching on 6th of February, so very, very soon, and Sins of the Father, along with the Vampire City of Darkmire, will be coming later in the year, more getting close to summertime. But there are going to be a few like thematic tie-ins with those, so Sins of the Father does use the town of Slepe a little bit, but I won't spoil any more at this point. Is there anything like the mutagens from Ashihama? Not at the moment, but
Mutagens is in...
I guess I
Like
assume...
rare cosmetic drops.
Yeah.
Well, I did speak with players recently about the mutagens, and I don't know, like, maybe the option for having cosmetic changes to armor, that would be cool, but to have, like, that's the crazy drop rates on them. I don't think players were too fan of that, because you see so many people's complaints like, oh, I've been here for so long and still no mutagens, so
Yeah.
we'd have to make sure we do it in a better way next time.
I think the whole point with the mutagens was there's like 3 versions of Zora, isn't there? We wanted to offer recolors for the pet, but we didn't want people to have to wait for 3 pet drops.
Yeah.
So if you introduce the mutagen and just give it a higher chance of it dropping, then people can actually just get the mutagens and recolour their pet.
It's for the helmet.
Yeah.
Oh, this is embarrassing. Pet's just got a right click off, hasn't it?
Yeah, just right click
I'll get my
metamorphosis on the pet.
Sorry, I'll see you later.
Too soon.
Well, it wouldn't be a live stream if I embarrassed myself. If I didn't embarrass myself. Again. Sorry, carry on.
Do you want me to move on?
Yeah, please move on.
Will the boss and lore, do they have any tie-ins to the Moon Clan on Lunar Isle? No, so I guess there is that kind of thematic link between dreams and nightmares, but no, I guess she almost comes from a complete other side of a world. Over on, say other side, is the world flat?
Does it go
Is it
around?
flat? Is
Who
it
knows?
round?
Off flat.
Is Gillenor flat?
I have stood at the edge. So we are
guessing it is.
we're slowly removing the edges though. So
But
I don't know.
but maybe that's because like you can't see the verticality. You know, so you just need to find a way to curve your monitor around to see the rest of it. You know.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a future quest here, just some going on an adventure to see if the world is flat. But
If we had sailing, we could sail round and find.
oh no, we're not talking about skills. Not here. So yeah, no, they're not connected. Obviously, there's a few thematic tie-ins, and there is an Easter egg somewhere that does link the two as well. But apart from that, they're separate stories. People are wondering about that Easter egg now. See if we can find it. Will people be able to cheese the boss like Corp, meaning you can spec it down and return with its stats still drained?
So when I mentioned like one of the benefits of instances, this is it, right? The boss doesn't exist until the fight starts, which means that it would obviously start with full stats. Having it just exist in the world, it would probably have a normal stat restoration like anything else. So no, you're not going to be able to do that. It's actually going to be a fight, unlike Corp. Here's a 2,000 HP chicken once you're done.
Oh, okay. Big words there.
Big words for a man who's never killed Corp.
Oh, wow. as soon as I get a BGS, I'm on that Corp.
Has anyone in the office managed to defeat the Nightmare?
Yes, many times.
Pro PVM here.
QA here, guys.
Mod Husky wishing he was that good.
I know, I'm still struggling with the 2,000 HP chicken, you know, but...
On level 3s have fire capes now.
Yeah. Step it up.
So, shall we bring on Mod Surma? He's nodding this time.
Should we budge up a little bit, or
Oh no, we don't have room. Sorry, you've got to go.
no, we've got plenty of room. That's good. Just move that.
Oh, hang on. You're sat on the wire.
Oh,
The magic has
we
been
have to pretend like we
destroyed.
like each other now.
Oh. Nice and cozy.
So, in that incredibly smooth transition, we were joined by Mod Surma.
Hello, great to be back. Thank you for having me again.
You're not that bad. We do like to invite you back from time to time.
No, it's always
To be
good
honest,
be back.
I do these so rarely. I think it's getting to the point where you might actually be appearing on more of these than I am now, which
Oh, I
I
don't
don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
I don't know.
I don't know, I feel like he comes on with the big projects and you do the big projects, so it may be quite even. you know?
Yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
I guess, for those who don't know, I have worked on Song of the Elves.
You didn't sound very sure. Like,
Yeah, I think it was.
it's already been so long
Yeah, I
I've
know.
wiped it from his mind.
Kevos Lowlands and other things. Fourth Boss Dungeon with Mod Husky. That was a great
Theatre of
GTT.
Blood. Yeah, that was the first
Yeah.
one we worked
That's right.
on with you, wasn't it?
And now The Nightmare of Ashihama.
Yeah. If people watching actually don't know, we're talking about things we worked on. Mod Surma is our audio guy, along with the legend himself, Ian Taylor. They've
Yes.
been doing the sound effects and music for the Nightmare of Ashihama. And I think we actually already got a bit of a tease of one of those earlier, didn't we, when we had the
yeah.
stream starting?
I think at the moment, and before the stream started, we had a bit of a Mod Ian tease. Slippy?
Sleep.
Sleep.
Sleepy, that's what we'll call it that now.
I think all the place thought it was slept when it came. It's fine.
Dungeon track, and then I think at the end of the stream we're going to have a bit of a teaser of the actual boss track. So it's going to be a lot of a
Exciting
bit of a spicy time. So just hang around and have a listen to that. Really.
So if anyone has any audio questions for Mod Surma, do throw in the chat and we'll chuck them his way.
Always available for questions.
I guess in the meantime, while they do
Yeah.
that, I have a question for
Yes.
What I want to know is, so the boss track that was yours, wasn't it? And did the dungeon track. So with the Nightmare specifically, like what did you look at for inspiration when it came to the music?
This is yes, it's always an interesting one. But for me, it's always the art which gives it all away. That's the key thing for me. And like just descriptive words to describe the the environment, to just anything really can give me like fuel to kind of to write. But yeah, it's definitely the kind of even like the colour in the environment, evil, gothic, and and looking back to Mauritania as well. Sorry, Theatre of Blood. That was also like a big like starting point for what direction I need to go in. And I think I've hit it on the head, so all is well.
Oh, you think so, do you?
I'm very modest. Yeah. Lots of spook in there.
Solid track.
Yeah, absolute banger as always.
I'm trying to pick up some questions from the chat, but all we're doing right now is like memeing about Sea Shanty 2 and Sea Shanty 3. There's someone going there like, when is Sea Shanty 3 coming? I saw one earlier, like, when are you going to release the extended edition of Sea Shanty? Does anyone have any non-Sea Shanty questions?
They're also blaming
good
you.
question.
There we go, an actual...
How many tracks are coming out? Actually, that's quite a good one. Only 2, but that's quite small in comparison to the previous releases. But it didn't need any more than 2 really. But there's always more on the go and being made. So
yeah. So with this one, we've got the, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the music track for the dungeon. Although Sleep Dungeon already exists in game, it was just using the track from Sleep itself, so we've given it a new track for the old part of Dungeon and for all the new bit covering all of that. And of course the boss music itself. Like you say, it's quite a small area. Like obviously we've released big cities and huge kingdoms in the past that had a lot of music. This didn't really need as much, but obviously we've got mentioning it again, Sins of a Father and Darkmire coming a bit later in the year, and Darkmire is another city, so there's going to be hopefully a few more music tracks there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think secretly some of the players might have been relieved there's only 2 tracks because then they only have to get 2 for their music kit. So that's maybe why they're asking.
Well, these aren't too hard to get. You just have to run into the dungeon, run into the boss, like yes, got a cape back.
That's true.
Unless you're like me and I'm still sat there crying because I finally got my music cape and then the Mimic launched and I still haven't been able to reclaim it from a Mimic.
How many minutes a track?
How many minutes?
Yeah.
I think this one averages around to 6 minutes. 6 minutes of boss music.
Okay.
Which it's quite a challenge sometimes to kind of keep up the pace for 6 minutes, because it's quite intense, and like you kind of even when you're writing, you're like, oh gosh, I'm getting a bit like, tired of just kind of like so much intensity all the time. But because of how old school works, we don't have a feature where the music can loop continuously. So what we aim to do is just like make a long track, in hope that whoever's playing would defeat that boss within that amount of time.
Hope they're good enough.
Is that the metric we use now to determine whether you're good or not? If the music stops, you just didn't hit the benchmark.
That's it.
I was just asking the right questions to get some informative knowledge from you.
Absolutely.
So we do have another audio question. One's come in. Does the boss talk like Nex? And no, she does not. Does she? She does have the usual sound effects, but
that's right.
We don't have a talking boss.
There is no like
acting.
No, I mean there's no sounds because obviously we can't have like audio in old school, like as in like audio. We only have MIDI and synthetic files, but there's no sounds to kind of represent that she's speaking. But yes, there's a whole bunch of new sound effects as well for when she's fighting. And like some screams, I guess, and some kind of screeches when she attacks, or he. Yeah, but no real audio.
Yeah, the couple of players in the chat saying there that to them that's a good thing. It helps keep the old school feel, keeping the like the MIDI and old sound effects. I don't know, maybe you have a different perspective on that. How is it to like be forced to work within such constraints? Like, I don't know, have we ever shown off any images of the the sound effect?
The Jag effects. I have a little bit on Twitter, and I do plan to do to kind of showcase that more because it is a very cool tool. It almost looks as if something, which would have been made in the Matrix. It's kind of like very green and black and very. Lots of
At the
cool
time
lines.
when that tool probably was first created, the Matrix had probably only just come out. Or
To
something.
be honest, actually, that's a very good point. About 2001-ish.
But that was probably their inspiration.
Yeah, you're probably absolutely right.
State of the art back then, green and black.
So if anyone's
That's it,
interested in
that's it.
seeing the archaic Matrix-style tools that are used to make all the sound effects, head over to Surma's Twitter and have a look at that.
Yeah.
Do you feel it constrains you at all, or is it
Well,
actually? Do you see it as a good thing?
It's kind of, I've had this kind of this question a lot actually, and this particular synthesizer. So it's made up of, I don't want to get too technical, but 4 specific waveforms, and you have to kind of manipulate these waves to make your sound. And there is certain limitations, but that doesn't mean you can't be creative with what you do. And in some ways, it really does push me to think differently how I use this tool. So there's still lots of room for kind of crazy, cool sounds which can be created.
Sounds quite similar to the way we create models as well.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we're working with some really old tools, and we're working within like tight constraints, but you can
But
still
you can push the boundaries. That's what we're all about, really. Kind of pushing that boundary and that limit.
Yeah. Although obviously not as complex as the artwork.
Oh, I think. Yeah, I think you're right.
Got a competition now.
It's just a
And
competition.
how many dimensions are your waveforms?
Who's got the worst tool to do their job?
Showdown.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Another audio question about audio cues for the different attacks. As we mentioned, as each one has its own like unique sound effects, so you have to like listen and know which attack it corresponds to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so kind of key to kind of communicating to the player like what the boss is doing. So it's quite important to have your sound on. To
Try and convince them.
Anticipate like new attacks which are coming. It would give you like a good idea of what to do next, really. So it could help your combat, really.
Without spoiling mechanics, there was an animation we played with the boss doing like a twisting sort of motion in one of the things they can look back in the stream. We all know what that attack is, right? But like seeing the sound effects that went with that, I was like, oh, that just grates on my ears. But like it's good because that's the effect you want of the nightmare, right?
I am particularly proud of some. Again, I'm being really modest here, but like some sound effects for the nightmare because I was thinking like, how can I get this organic, these organic sounds, and I spent a couple of days and I finally got it. So I don't know how much I can say really, but listen and just let me know what you think.
I think everyone should play with the sounds on because you're not getting the full retro gaming experience without that audio. If you're playing or something fancy like dubstep.
What is this? MIDI.
It's awful. You shouldn't do it. So just put the audio on.
Yeah. There's nothing more nostalgic than whacking the music up to full blast and logging into Lumbridge and Flute Salad just blows your eardrums up. It's like, yes, this was my childhood.
I want to hear some fancy dubstep now.
Oh, what's that?
Well, I actually have done some dubstep, so I can set it your way.
So we're going to be hearing some dubstep MIDI soon with the next update.
We'll have to really push the boundaries there, but I'll give it a go.
It could throw you off sometimes when you do a piece of content but purposely choose the wrong track. So like, we're doing Theatre of Blood, but like you're just playing country jig,
So we're getting towards the end now, and very shortly we'll be leaving you with one last tease from Surma with a boss music track. Before that, one more question for everyone. What did you enjoy the most about working on The Nightmare?
I've got to say this time round, the sound effects working on The Nightmare, because the art was just so amazing. I had to compliment that, and it was definitely by far the most fun I've had in a long time doing that. So absolutely, sound effects.
I should say art, but I really like just giving the area sort of lore through character dialogue. It sort of makes the sanctuary feel a bit more grounded in the world, sort of thing. And I just sort of enjoy just coming up with crazy characters and just sort of filling them in this area and just go explore. And it gets people to move around in areas where they wouldn't usually go. So yeah, that's what I like to do.
Well, I quite enjoyed the work I ended up doing with Gareth over Christmas, right? Because we were the two sad people who decided to spend some time in the office, and it was kind of, we knew they had the mechanics down for the fight, but trying to come up and work on the animations together, whether it was plugging them in, figuring out what we could do to really sort of graphically tell what is happening in that fight, and that was quite a fun and interesting experience because, you know, you don't, like, back we had like random fires and stuff, and it's like, well, we don't want a fire because it's a nightmare, right? We've got other things to show that same effect. I thought it was quite interesting working to come up with those ideas.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked that a lot.
So I'd say for me, with this boss, we actually got a little gift from the engine department, something we've never been able to do with NPCs before, the way they move. I'm not going to spoil too much, but they gave us a nice, fun little command that allows us to do something a little bit different. I think that was just the most exciting thing, working on that, just because it's something we've never done in old school before, like getting the command up and running, testing it, and it was completely broken to start with. It was doing everything wrong, and then finally getting it working, and then plugging it in and seeing the boss do this attack the first time properly was like, nice.
The most fun for me was when I went to...
Oh, and then you broke it, didn't you?
Yeah, so like when I was working over Christmas, I was like, oh no, this thing is broken. Guys, like I've commented it out, we're just going to look at it when Ed comes back, maybe he'll fix it. I just set up the world wrong. Where I booted up a world where that command didn't exist, so obviously the boss was like, I don't know what to do, and it crashed the world, so that was quite fun.
For me, I can't really answer this without releasing spoilers.
Oh no, don't do that.
So, I say the best thing was just testing on the mechanics and making sure they all work together and feel good as a player, and it's something that I'd like to play many, many times, like within a week, for example. Making sure that people don't really get sick of it. And also, doing the playtest is really fun.
That was really fun. I think my favourite part was probably the original design process for the Sirens as a race in general. I did like loads of sketches. Obviously you guys saw like a few there, but I did a lot of different designs and I was going down a lot of different routes, and I really sort of immersed myself in that, and that was really fun. So that was my favourite part.
My favourite part was whenever I create animations for a character, I always like to make sure that everything that the character does is relevant to something that you can see on the character, or it just feels like it's congruous with the character design. So because this character was quite creepy and surreal and nightmarish, it was nice to be able to take elements from various sort of horror films that I've seen over the years and try and incorporate it into this character's movement, as well as kind of finding things that are already present on the character to kind of make you feel like, oh, they're going to use that, oh, they just use that. So it all just feels like it's a very complete character.
Awesome. In that case then, I think we are at time. So just going to finish off with a couple of notices for anyone who joined halfway through. So this has been a stream dedicated to the Nightmare of Ashihama, in case people hadn't noticed, and she's our new group boss launching on the 6th of February. We know there's quite a lot of people been spamming and asking about PvP. We're not ignoring you. There is going to be a statement released about that tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And now we're going to finish off with one last audio tease from Surma.
Indeed.